August on this Monday, and it's a nice summer day again. And we're going to have a special guest here, Susan Sperry, the Executive Director of World Relief Chicago. So we're just going to bring up Susan here. And here she comes. There's Susan. Good to see you, Susan.
Thanks so much, John. It's great to see you and great to be back with you.
Okay, I'm going to throw out the welcome mat. It's the welcome Susan, but I had a welcome mat for your other buddy. I just can't get over that one. I'm sorry, I had to do that one again. The welcome. Well, anyway, we welcome Susan here, and Susan, let's just briefly, we're going to discuss the Afghan refugee situation. And I just want to give, just briefly, you can just give an overview. What's the Ministry of World Relief Chicagoland?
Sure. Yeah. World Relief is a Christian organization that partners with local churches in our communities to welcome refugees and immigrants and help them rebuild their lives in community. We do that through providing vital services, building welcoming and just communities, and bringing people together in relationship.
That's great. And I've done things in the past with World Relief, and I've known Susan a few years, and it's a beautiful program. And I was more in the, not resettlement, the immigration side, and documentations and things like that, and citizenship. And that's an awesome program. You learn a lot about history there, that's for sure.
Yeah. And we've loved you being involved, John. And there's so many different ways that people can get involved.
I know World Relief's got several different ways that they can be involved, monetary, volunteer, just so many different ways. And we're going to be discussing the World Relief and the resettlement. Now, I'm going to show just briefly. There's Afghanistan in a map, landlocked, and that's where we've been for 20 years with American troops. And we know what's happening over the last few days there and weeks of trying to evacuate. And I believe they got 116 or something thousand out in the last few days, 10 days or whatever it was. How many days? But anyway, that's happening and it's winding down, I guess. So, but Susan, you were in the paper over the weekend. I'm going to put that one article up here real fast. I'm going to put myself down here if I can do this here right. Yeah, no, I did that wrong. I did Susan. No. We did this wrong. Sorry about that, Susan.
You're good.
I'm hitting more buttons than I have to. Sorry. Well, anyway, this is Susan was commenting in the Sun-Times. This is online. I don't know if it got in the newspaper per se, the print page, but she was commenting about expecting Afghan refugees by the end of September. Is that still what you're thinking today, or is it any different than that, would you say?
Absolutely. Yeah, we are expecting people this month or in the month of September.
Okay. And here's other thought that Susan was talking about in the paper there. It was about the refugees and the process and just that general idea, and that was great. And Susan, there's some more today. I don't know if any of you touched the Chicago Sun-Times, but today the Sun-Times really put themselves on the line and said about the refugees coming. They were really for that. And I saw a number, and I'll bring up just a photo real fast of that news conference. Is it going to be 500 maybe coming or more? What would you say on that coming Afghan refugees in the next month or so?
Yeah, John, I'm so glad you were able to attend a news conference this morning with Senator Durbin and Representative Jan Schakowsky, and then a number of resettlement agencies in Chicago. And they shared there that about 500 refugees in the city of Chicago alone are expected to arrive in Afghanistan And
Just in
as we look
Chicago
at the
alone, huh?
rest of, yeah, as we look at the rest of the state of Illinois, certainly there'd be more people than that arriving from Afghanistan.
Wow. So yeah, they had a news conference there, and Susan's down there in the corner there, and well, I was 25 or 30 different people there,
Mm.
and like she said, the representatives and Senator Durbin there, who's been really in the forefront of refugees and immigration for years, and so anyway, what's the thought, Susan, that I saw in the Sun Times, and I think maybe it was talked about at that conference about the status differences. Do you want to explain that a little, maybe what you know about the different visa status things?
Well, John, I think it's important, and we may have lost you on the screen, John. I don't know if that's
No,
intentional or
I'm
not,
coming
but
back. I'm coming
okay,
back.
good, good. Um, so it's important for us to remember that that this has been an emergency evacuation. That over the last 2 weeks, the number you cited, John, and I don't know the exact final number, but well over 100,000 people evacuated in
Right.
that time is a monumental undertaking. And and so with that, there are people who've been evacuated from Afghanistan who are special immigrant visa holders who assisted the US military and had a visa to come to the US that they were just waiting on a flight. There's folks who are arriving who had been approved as refugees or were in the midst of the refugee process, and people arriving who were in the midst of a number of different processes to be able to come. And because of the speed of all of this and the very urgent need to rescue those who help the U.S., there are many people coming right now who are entering with humanitarian parole, so entering with full U.S. permission, and yet what they what they can expect to receive as they adjust to the U.S. is right now a little bit different than what refugees otherwise might receive as they access support from the government. And so that's where it's so important that World Relief and local communities that we're joining together to create welcome, to help people um, find housing, eventually find jobs, and rebuild their lives here. And that's we can barely imagine. I think many of us watching footage over the last couple of weeks have just been in shock at the thought of what that would be to literally overnight be fleeing your home and leaving everything behind. And so um, those who are coming to our communities are going to need a community of welcome, are going to need a lot of support to rebuild both the things, but also, very importantly, a lot of the emotional and social support from our communities, especially with through organizations like World Relief and so many others who are on the front lines to provide support with case management, with counseling, with employment help, helping kids get into schools. All of this is going to be vital in the days ahead.
So we've seen the number, maybe it'd be at, you said that 500 numbers just maybe in Chicago itself, not in the suburbs or other areas, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah. And right now through World Relief, again we're giving our best prediction right now. The
Well, I
situation
understand.
is
I just,
changing a
I'm
lot
not
over the
going to hold
last
you to this.
number of
No,
days,
no.
but we're expecting through our 3 offices in the Chicagoland area
Right.
to potentially resettle around 150 people total from Afghanistan. That may increase, that may decrease as the days ahead uh, come to pass. But
Right. Here's an article that was from the Religious News Service that I have online. Take a look at this. It mentions about 8 of 9 groups that can take resettlements. And World Relief's mentioned near the bottom of the article, and it says some of the needs that World Relief would like in that article. It does. It mentions, so if you already brought up some of those, so you can bring them up again, those needs
yeah,
of physical things and helps. And anyway, the article goes into that. So I just wanted to bring that
yeah.
up.
Yeah, great. I'm glad you are, John. And there are a number of ways that folks can get involved. a huge need we have at the moment is for housing. And so we are wanting to connect with landlords, with people who rent property, and especially if there's availability that they have, we'd love to connect and try to secure housing for both Afghans who are coming, but also other refugees who are arriving from around the world. Another way that folks can help is through donating household items through a welcome kit. And that's a kit that has everything that someone will need for their home as they settle in. There's a list of those items on World Relief's website. You can find us at chicagoland.worldrelief.org. There's also a page there when you go to our main website that you can connect specifically around the needs of our Afghan allies, and go to that page and sign up to volunteer, either volunteering with Afghan allies or volunteering with other refugee and immigrant families. And so that I mentioned volunteering, that we will have a lot of need in the months ahead for people to tutor in English, to befriend someone and walk with them in their first months in the U.S. And then finally, I want to highlight two others. Advocacy. It's critical. We're seeing on the news today that the last U.S. troops now have left Afghanistan. That's a big deal. There are many, many people, thousands of people still on the ground in Afghanistan, including Americans, including those who've helped the U.S. military over the decades. They still need a path out, and we need to continue to raise our voices here on their behalf with our local representatives. And it's an incredible right that we have here in the U.S. to be able to do that. And we want to pray. We believe that God moves the hearts of kings and rulers. We've seen incredible evil take place. Thinking of last Thursday's attacks, but we're also hearing many reports of the atrocities committed by the Taliban in recent weeks. And we are praying for God's intervention, and that we will see and hear of miracles taking place in the days ahead.
Amen. I had a friend from Frontier Fellowship, Dan McNerney, and he brought that up too. And we pray that they would see visions. And anyway, we just pray that God would really work here. Here's the website for World Relief, Chicagoland, Chicagoland.worldrelief.org. And they also have a very good Facebook presence. So I want to bring that up here too. So you can get them on Facebook too. That is a very beautiful way. And what you were talking about, one other to work with those who are still left behind, and I think they're just going to be talking about that right when we're talking here on the State Department is going to talk about that right now. I think what their thoughts are on that one. But we got to pray that our government and others, we could get those people out. And they said there might even be 250 Americans still left. And then, of course, our Afghan partners and other friends. So it's a big thing in a lot of families. And so it's big. And
Yep.
one thing on the government side was on that humanitarian thing. I think, am I not right, Susan, that we're advocating, I think World Relief is to bring up that status so they can get more helps yet. Or is that correct? I think instead of the SIV, that one is, what's that, special?
Special immigrant visa program.
Yeah, that one gets covered for a lot of aid and helps, but humanitarian isn't quite that way. So they
right. Yeah.
So,
So John, I think we definitely do want to advocate that that those who are coming can have access to some supports that the government provides that they really need. Supports like food stamps, and supports even like some of the government funded programs at World Relief or elsewhere that we want them to have full access to. Now, I say that saying that Afghans who are coming will be able to get support through World Relief and in the ways that they need, and we're eager and prepared to serve them. We've seen and heard a lot of strong intent and will from our government officials so far to make legislative changes or make policy changes to be able to support Afghans who are coming here now. So we're hopeful that that we'll continue to see really see a robust both government response and community response to welcome those who are coming. So we're speaking out on that front, really wanting to create a holistic community of welcome, and we're very hopeful that that will come to pass.
Yeah, this is a very new moment, I think, for resettlement groups and others, that this is sort of like, I don't know, maybe it's unexpected, but maybe it was expected somewhat, but it's an influx that, and maybe we need that ceiling up too. It was, I forgot, was it 60 some thousand? And we got to get it higher too for incoming refugees from other countries and everywhere. Is that correct?
Yeah, John, I think what you're referring to is that there's people all over the world who have fled horrific circumstances, and one of the U.S.'s longstanding both humanitarian and national security and foreign policy programs has been the refugee resettlement program. Since 1980, and really in the years before that, people have arrived to the U.S. to make this country their home at the invitation of the U.S. government after they fled, after individuals and families fled persecution in their own country. And so it's a very important action that the U.S. takes, and we want to see our government continue to make this this pathway to resettlement available to all who need it. There are literally tens of millions of refugees around the world today. A very small number are admitted to a country like the U.S. for resettlement, and we know we cannot do everything, but we do want to do our part as the U.S. And World Relief is an organization that partners with the U.S. government to be able to provide resettlement services. But beyond that, we're doing so much more to help immigrants integrate into our local communities. And we're eager and ready to be able to welcome those who come in the next year.
I'm glad for World Relief being out there, because real briefly here, my grandmother came from Sweden in the early 1900s by boat. She was not fleeing communism or totalitarianism. She was fleeing a wicked stepmother, and she left Sweden. Wow. She left Sweden on that at age, well, 15 or 13, I'm not quite sure, on a boat, no English, and she came to America, and that was received. But it took her, I mean, she did all, I mean, they did their vetting in a different way back then. It wasn't quite as robust as today, no way. But I just think we're all immigrants from various ways. Unless we're Native Americans, but we all come from some background that came to this country, and we should be a welcoming country. There's over 330 million people here, and this is just a small number, comparatively speaking. And we just got to keep moving here, and like I said, increase those numbers on coming in and helping people like World Relief, that what they're doing is going to be very beautiful. It's we could quote some Bible verses here too that would really speak to about helping the immigrant, and that is very important, that we think about those who are hurting and down, and because it could be us anytime. We don't know. The Lord wants us to work to help those that are hurting, and World Relief is doing that. And I thank Susan for coming by. And World Relief is going to be moving. I think a lot of things are going to be happening here, I think, with World Relief and across the country and in Chicagoland. So remember, World Relief, they got 3 offices. They got them in Aurora, DuPage, and in Chicago. So again, thanks, Susan, for coming by. And remember, at the bottom of the screen there, that's how you get your vaccinations. We want you to get those. And hopefully on Wednesday, we're going to have a guest, hopefully talking about the COVID in Kane County. I hope that's what we can update how that's happening. And that affects this stuff too. It really puts a mess in this little for all this action. But I want to just thank Susan for coming by and visiting with us. And so till next time, I'm going to just say bye-bye now. And God bless you out there. And thank you for coming by and visiting.